there are a lot of risk and sacrifices that you need to make in order to build a business, right? And let's just call it, some are the dark side and some are the light side. On the dark side of building a business, it doesn't mean it's bad. Dark doesn't mean bad and light doesn't mean good. What I mean by the dark side is that there's so many freaking unknowns. As an example, I had an opportunity to build a business with an ex-business partner of mine from the ground up to doing billions and billions of dollars of sales every single year. And I can recall just being the only salesperson and then him being the only operations person. And then both of us just kind of like, even when we brought staff on, everything was relying upon what we do in terms of making money, right? Even the people that we brought on who were salespeople, they wanted the majority of the pie. And you have to let that kind of stuff go. And the crazy thing about it is you have to keep moving forward without knowing if you're going to be successful or not, right? That's the dark side. You just don't know, right? It's definitely a risk that you have to take, but it's worth the risk because, especially if you can stick to it and stay consistent, right? You may not be making as much money as people who are coming in who are only thinking about themselves and thinking about that present moment at that time. But if you stick with it, you will far outpace the kind of person who only thinks about themselves at that particular moment. But the point is that you have to be willing to go through that dark period where you really don't know. And so we went through that period where it was just a ton of dark years. At least I was barely making any money. I find out that he was making a little bit more by moving things around. But we get to a point where now we basically have to go in separate ways. Here's the crazy thing, right? After all the sacrifice, all those years, the ups, the downs, the great friendships, the traveling, and all the things that we got to do together, we finally got to a point where it was like, oh my God, we can start making some money. When I say some money, that's just over 6 figures a year, which is not a lot of money today, especially after you've sacrificed many years to not have anything. And so we finally get to a point where it starts to make sense. The light begins to shine and we're like, oh my God, we can see now where we're going. We can see a brighter future. So the money starts to come in and then greed starts to kick in and then boom, you're back to the dark side because when greed kicks in, you really don't know what to expect. Anything can happen. You can be in business one day, you let too many greedy people in and you will have nothing because what do greedy people do? It's not like they're philanthropic people or they're the kind of people who come into a business and help it grow and everybody prospers. No, that's not what greed means. Greed means that they come in, whatever food is on the dinner table, they eat it all. No one else prospers, right? Besides maybe them and their crew. That's what greedy people do. So, it starts off with one greedy person and then, like attracts like. They find other greedy, scheming, conniving, mischievous, very unethical people. And greedy people, after a while, there's nothing left. And when there's nothing left, there's no business. There's really nothing because no one else is actually prospering besides these greedy people. And this is why greedy people have to consistently, if you notice, they got to move around from this business to that business to that business to this location, to this location, to this location. They don't ever have a consistent home. And that's the dark side of business because you're going to be faced with that. It won't last, but you will be faced with that. And so after coming in and basically pillaging everything, right, I acquired the business, naturally, some people habitually do. And if you watch one of my other videos, I spoke about the habits of entrepreneurs. Some people habitually just are who they are. And so my business partner began to try to sabotage the business. He basically caused a ton of our clients not to receive their deposits. And in payment processing, that's the whole name of the game is you sell a product and then you get paid for it. But he held something called daily ACH files for 7 freaking long days, right? So that over $7 million, I think it might have been over $11 million of funds were not paid out to our clients. You know what kind of mayhem that causes? Imagine if you have a business and you say you sell $100,000 worth of products, but you should at least collect, let's say $90,000, but you don't get it for a 7-day period. Your staff has to get paid and hopefully you have some money saved up. If you don't, your staff can't get paid, you can't buy supplies, you can't pay your vendors, you can't get paid. You can be put out of business sometimes just over that period of a 7-day or 1-week period. And so he held those funds right when I acquired it, just so that clients could either be upset or could leave, the business that I was acquiring. He then took our 800 number, and when all the clients were calling in, asking and screaming and crying about their money, he basically transferred it to my personal cell phone, right? And I thought about this, and I'm like, why would he do that? Why would this kind of person, why, what is the real benefit? And it's just, like I said, watch the other video. It's because that's the habit that he's had. He didn't just do this. This is just what he does. And I didn't recognize this prior to that. And I'm kind of jumping off topic a little bit, but when our sales reps would have an issue with him, he would do something by going in and cutting off their access on the back end. That's just who he is. So whatever that kind of person has control over, they're going to sabotage it. That is what they habitually do as an entrepreneur, as a human being. So long story short, this is what's happening. He does some other things to sabotage the business. And then now I have to go back into that dark period where I'm rebuilding the business. I'm really trying to find where everything is because he didn't transition it over properly like the paperwork said he should have. And all of our sales reps end up missing an entire month of pay because those funds went somewhere else too. Some of our clients who, what we call merchants in the payment processing space, sometimes you have to have what they call a reserve. When you process $100,000, maybe 10% goes to a reserve just in case your clients have an issue with your products and you can't, there's no money left to pay it. Like the payment processors doesn't want to foot the bill for your mistakes. So they have something called a reserve. Some of the high-risk payment aggregators don't put it aside per transaction or per batch per day. They just say, hey, listen, you did 100,000, you were supposed to get 100,000, we're just gonna hold the whole thing or we're gonna hold a certain amount. They don't forewarn you. What we like to do is let you know in advance and have you agree upon that. So our clients are now calling in, going bananas saying, hey, we were told that you have all the money, even though the flow of funds was controlled by my former business partner. And they're saying, hey, I got $100,000 missing. I got $700 and something thousand missing. I got another 100,000 over here. It was just everywhere popping up, right? And that is absolutely a dark period because I don't know where the funds are, because my former business partner controlled the flow of funds, locked me out of the company so that I couldn't even see it, which is another darker period in my entrepreneurial journey because while I'm locked out of my own company through various systems, right, he's doing all kinds of things that I can't see. I can't put my finger on it because I'm locked out of it. Now that I've acquired the company, I don't know what he's done. I don't know where things are. He's not telling me. He's intentionally trying to sabotage or destroy the business. I have staff members who are now saying, hey, where are things, right? We're all trying to find out, what did this freaking guy do? Why do we have all these clients, reaching out to us? And that is another dark period. And we're probably gonna go through that dark period for a while until we get to a place, and you have to keep going. You cannot stop. You stay with it, you stay committed to it, you will get through it, right? I remember reading a book and there was a king, a very successful, very rich and wealthy king who had a problem. And he was just stressed out about it. And he was asking everybody to help him with the problem. And so he basically hired this wise man or this man in the city or town, whatever they call it back in the day, who's known to be wise. And he brought him to his castle and said, hey, here's my problem. And the wise man thought about it and said, okay, I have an answer for you. And he came and he brought the king a necklace with a little emblem on it. And the king looked and was like, dude, this doesn't answer my question. This doesn't help with the problem. He says, I need to understand what the answer is. I need to know the answer. And the wise man said, listen, read the emblem, right? Read what's inside the emblem, or whatever you call the little, sometimes you have a necklace and it has a little, a picture of somebody in it, and you open it and it's a picture or a quote or saying. And when he opened it, it says, and this too shall pass. And the king was like, what? He says that nothing will last forever. And so you have to keep going through these dark times in order to get to the light. It's just nowhere around it. Even now, when you wake up in the morning, if you wake up early enough, it's going to be dark, but it doesn't stay dark 24 hours a day, 365 days everywhere, right? On the planet. The earth does rotate, so we do get some sunlight. And so whatever dark period you're going to, it will absolutely pass. And on the next video, I will talk about what happens when you get to that light side. What happens when you're able to start beginning to see the light, right? Hope this helps. Thanks for tuning in. Hope that you subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions. Be good.